For the Women's Football Chat, this is the first episode of the 24-25 season. Yes, welcome along to this week's Women's Football Chat. My name is Chris Gadsby. I'm here every Thursday at 6 p.m, bringing you the very latest from the third and fourth tiers of women's football here in England. This is the show dedicated to the FAWNL and the 6 divisions within it. And as I said in the introduction there, this is the first episode of the 24-25 season, with now the 72 sides confirmed in the FAWNL for the upcoming campaign. Even though the last one only finished a couple of weeks ago, we're now already looking ahead to next season. So what we're going to do, this one is a little bit of an intermission episode really, between the end of last season and the start of the summer knockout tournament, which is coming next week. So make sure you are following at W Football Chat for all of the links you will need to ensure your club wins the summer knockout tournament. We have a special guest interview coming up later on in today's show. But before we get to that, we're going to start with some of the news really that's been going on over the FAWNL. We're going to start with those 2 remaining sides that we were waiting on last week that we suspected would be in the FAWNL this year. They are now confirmed to be in the FAWNL. We're going to start then in the West Midlands. Worcester City, they've still got a game to go, but they are 4 points clear of Lytown Ladies in second in the West Midlands Regional Football League. They beat Shifnal Town by 3-0, and they settled the nerves very early on. Jessica Fassnage in the first minute put Worcester City in front. Sophie Griffiths after half time, and then Fassnage again with the second one. 3-0, Worcester City win that game, and they will be in the Division 1 Midlands next season. And then the final side into the FAWNL is Dulwich Hamlet, who were pretty much certain of being in the FAWNL prior to Sunday's games. They needed to not lose by 12 goals against Saltdean United in order to make sure that they would be in the FAWNL next year. And much similar to Worcester City, they settled the nerves early on. Angel Reid in the 5th minute and then Shakira Roberts in the 7th minute meant they were 2-0 up before the 10-minute mark. They got a third a quarter of an hour in through Brittany Saylor. So they were 3-0 up after 15 minutes, and all they had to do was not lose by 12 goals in order to get themselves promoted. So Dulwich Hamlet, and if you've seen on social media the scenes around Dulwich Hamlet getting promoted, it seems like they're going to be terrific for the FAWNL. Really looking forward to having them in the league next year. And that means we have our 72 FAWNL clubs. If you look down, in fact, all along the graphic on my on my right hand side on your screen there, you will see that the new teams graphics are in, the likes of Watford back in the league, Lewis in the Southern Premier Division as well, and then the teams there in their rough geographical location. Obviously there are so many teams in London, so many teams in Birmingham, that it is difficult to get them exactly right while still having them big enough to be legible on the screen. So it does look as though we're going to have 3 teams moving, it's my guess anyway, in from where you would expect them to be to where they're going to be next year. One of them is fairly straightforward. That's Rugby Borough, moving from the Southern Premier Division into the Northern Premier Division, because Watford and Lewis have both come down, both Southern sides. Don't forget, in the Southern Premier Division as well, we've already got that name change confirmed between from Cardiff City Ladies to Gwalior United. New logo for them as well. Then the Midlands and the North is an interesting one, because there are so many teams on that border. Fylde and Huddersfield will go into the North. They're too far north to go into the Midlands, which means you need a Midlands-based side to go into the. So you need the most southerly northern-based side to drop down into the Midlands. Now, that seems to be quite a toss-up really between Cheadle, who are just, if you draw a line across the country, the most southern-based side, and Barnsley Women's, who are kind of Sheffield way. And it looks on that graphic away to my right much more obvious than it actually is. Again, can't get everybody exactly right. It is quite close. Now, there's arguments for both. There's arguments for Barnsley in the sense that they're on the M1, probably easier to get to for the majority of teams, and therefore they should go into the Midlands. It'd be a bit easier. But then you'd be in a situation where you've got Barnsley in the north and Barnsley Women in the Midlands, and that just seems very weird to me. The other one, as I said, is Cheadle, who are the most southerly side, but are over kind of Manchester way, which is a long way for the likes of Peterborough and Northampton to go, yes, but you wouldn't be playing them midweek. You'd only be doing that once a year. And if Cheadle, I saw that was an argument that got put when I posted about that league graphic, and they said, well, that's a long way to go, Cheadle to Peterborough. I was like, yeah, but Cheadle to Peterborough is about 2 hours and 50 minutes. And they've only got to do that once. You put them in the north, and you've got Norton, Durham, and Middlesbrough, who are all about 2 hours 45 away. So you're talking, do you make a long trip once? Do you make a long trip 3 times? And then with so many Birmingham teams in the Midlands as well, you look at the likes of Boldmere over there. Sutton Coldfield aren't too far away, Solihull, Worcester now, Leafield as well. There are a lot of sides in the Birmingham area where it's just a quick hop up the M6 for them. So don't know what the league's going to do on that one. Then you go into southeast, southwest, where the relegated sides from tier 3, i.e. London Bees, are obviously London, clues in the name, and Chatham, also kind of in that area. They have to go into southeast, which means you need a southeast team to move into southwest. Now, Chesham are the most westerly team, but they moved from west to east within the last 3 years. Maidenhead are inside the M25. Seems a bit daft to have a team inside the M25 going over to the west. So my money is on Worthing, who are on the south coast, moving across, which would mean that southwest kind of encapsulates everything under London as well. But for me, if you look at teams that Worthing, if they move into southwest, could play midweek as well, elsewhere on that south coast, Moneyfields, Southampton Women's, Bournemouth, and now Bournemouth Sports, there are 4 teams in there that are relatively local to Worthing, and that to me makes more sense when you're looking at games that can be played midweek if necessary, if we have a winter like we had this year. So it could well be that the league look at that as well. They'll decide all that kind of at the AGM and in board meetings between now and then. So we'll just have to wait to see what the official makeup of those leagues are. But that's the situation with the 72 teams in the FAWNL for next year. Now then, let's go to Real Bedford ladies, the Pirates, who are one of the teams coming into the league. They have announced Charlie Bill as the club's new manager with immediate effect. The 28-year-old will join the Pirates from MK Dons. MK Dons seems to have disintegrated a bit. A lot of players have left there as well, and the coaching staff. And the club are looking to build on a positive inaugural campaign. Bill will replace Georgia Clark at the helm following her successful interim role, and he'll be joined by Mark Dass, Laura Bright, Beth Adams and Alec Miller and the backroom staff. The Real Bedford chairman, Peter McCormack, commented that Charlie and his team bring the experience and expertise necessary to support and drive forward the club's ambitions. We will provide Charlie all the resources necessary to build a competitive squad as we enter the National League. Now, Charlie Bill joins Real Bedford after 8 years at MK Dons, with 6 years managing their first team. And he's also an MK College course team leader. He'll continue that alongside his work at Real Bedford Ladies. So it's going to be that's a very big appointment from Real Bedford right at the start of the season. You've just come into the new league and you've got a manager of that caliber. So could be a terrific signing. We'll have to see how they get on in their first year, but they definitely seem to be a club to keep an eye on. Right, then we have had the Tier 3 April. They're calling it April Manager of the Month. There was only one game in May. Regular viewers and listeners to the show will know that I'm part of the panel that helps to shortlist Manager of the Month each month. Yes, this is April Manager of the Month. We are calling it April and May Manager of the Month. There's only one game in May. I mean, you can't do a Manager of the Month off one game. So this is April and May Manager of the Month. Wolves Women's Dan McNamara. Wolves finished the year with 6 wins out of 7 through April and May. Finished in the end, I think it's still 4th in the FA Women's National League Northern Premier Division. They finished 3 points behind Forest, 4 behind Burnley in the end. Could have obviously, as I said, been a lot further had they not gone on that run towards the end of the season. 8-0 over Stourbridge, 5-1 over Halifax, 3-0 over Fylde, 4-3 over Forest. Don't forget that was coming from 3 goals down with half an hour to go. 5-1 against Derby. That one loss against Halifax midweek neutral ground. 2-1 win over Liverpool Feds, and although it's not considered in the Manager of the Month awards at all, a superb County Cup final between Wolves and Rugby, where Rugby win it 4-3 on a penalty shootout. Late goals absolutely everywhere, and a dramatic game, and that is what a good County Cup can look like. A good County Cup can have 2 great teams going against each other and producing a brilliant game like that. A not so good County Cup, and I completely appreciate this is nothing to do with the FAWNL. They have no control over this whatsoever. But a not so good County Cup is AFC Sudbury has theirs last night, won 11-1 to win their cup final. And there are some county cups which are just awful and some which are great. So great April and May for Wolves. We have news from Doncaster Rovers Bells that they are welcoming their kind of junior section from under 7 through to the senior level back into the Doncaster Bells family for the first time in more than a decade. As I said, this gives you then that better pathway through, right the way through from under 7s to the senior squad. They say that they are proud to confirm we have reunited with Doncaster Bells juniors in the same family for the first time in more than a decade. Positive changes in leadership in recent years across both organisations have led to the reunion, with the primary goal of providing a strong pathway for young female players in the city. Bells Juniors have provided age group football for girls since breaking away from the senior club, and now under the club Doncaster umbrella, the juniors will bridge the gap between the Wildcats and the elite talent pathway, giving a full route to senior level all the way from under sevens. And what they say is that this is the Chief Executive, Chris Wood, has said that we want to offer the opportunity for as many Doncaster girls as possible to play football for us, which is why we're so proud to offer a team for every age group. If you're just starting out, we have the Wildcats programme. You have some experience, every team from age group 7 to 16. Then there's the ETP from 16 to 21. So you can get yourselves up there ready for the senior team. They are holding trials over June the 4th, 6th and 12th from 5 till 8 at the Eco Power Stadium. Social media channels are the way to get expression of interest forms, with more than 150 people having already put their names forward. So it looks to be a positive start to the future for the reunited Bells. So good positive steps forward in Doncaster. One final piece of news to go through then this week before we get on to talking to our guest is that Peterborough United women have announced a new management team ahead of the 24-25 season. They have announced Jake Paul as the new first team manager, and Georgia Clark is taking the role as assistant. Now, Jake Paul, he started his career as a coach at Leicester City in the Championship, spent 4 years at Long Eaton United ladies, and was recently the assistant manager at Huddersfield Town in the Northern Premier Division. He is also currently head of women's football at the University of Nottingham, with his programme becoming the #1 ranked in the country, achieving the title of national champions last year in the process. He has said he's been in some really good roles in recent years at different clubs and has led and has a lead role in a university setting, but this is his first time in a management role. It's a really exciting step, one I think I'm ready for and one I'm looking forward to bringing my experience to. The general manager of Peterborough United says, that's Sam Winch, he says that he's thrilled to introduce Jake Paul as our new manager. With his experience in women's football, I'm confident he will bring a fresh perspective and drive our team to new heights. His passion for the game and dedication to developing players make him the ideal candidate to lead our team and instill a new culture within the club. So plenty for Peterborough United fans to dive into with that new announcement. Interesting, they've gone for somebody in their first management role. We'll have to see what happens with them over the course of next season. But all changed down in Peterborough. Time now then to speak to this week's guest. Karl Watson is the manager of Moneyfields Women, and he has been on the show before about 70 episodes ago. But with the announcement this week that Moneyfields Women are moving to a semi-professional model for 24-25, he wants to explain that it's not just following that superb FA Cup run from last season.
Lots of people are assuming it's just because of the FA Cup run last year and they're going to give us the money back. It's not that. Following the England women's success in the Euros, right from the beginning, I've built the whole thing myself, funded it myself, recruited staff, recruited players, coached it myself, drove the bus myself and washed the kit myself. Over the last few years, we've been very fortunate to pick up a really good group of volunteers and staff. And after the Euros, I was kind of burnt out, and I sort of thought, if I don't hit strike now, they're never gonna see the fruits of the tree, you know. So I kind of went in and said, look, I'm maxed out. I can't do any more. I already live separate from my wife and visit once a week because I don't get time. It cost me a fortune at work in money loss, so we need to come under one umbrella. And at that time, they agreed to it. We got a small budget this year for need to pay expenses to the staff. And then we're still working towards the equality budget now, which we're very close to this year.
So what changes are there going to be now that the club is in this semi-pro model?
Um, well, what the money gives you, it's not a fortune. It's not like they're going to be able to give up work or anything like that. But what it does do is it should give them a bit more flexibility in terms of hours they need to work because we cover the expense of maybe the odd shift being missed. Covers their fuel and petrol costs, etc., and gives them just a little bit of a cushion to be able to work that little bit harder on what we're asking of them. We're asking them to perform at professional levels, train twice a week, which not everyone can always make, etc., and travel all over the country playing good sides while at least eating right, looking after themselves, being fit, and yeah, it's just that little bit of what they deserve, and to make their life that little bit easier to focus on what it is we're trying to achieve.
Yeah. So is the training upping at all? You mentioned there it was twice a week, or is that what you were doing last season anyway?
No, obviously, I'm sure you're aware of the John Jenkins ground being very delayed. Um, so now we've got the ground. The ground's in. So we start our first ever game there is against Plymouth Argyle in a pre-season friendly. So we've now got a nice compact pre-season schedule at home. We are going to train longer on the Tuesday, as well as do the classroom set, and we'll have our usual 2 hours on a Thursday. So there is going to be probably another hour and a half contact time a week. So yeah, so it's very important that we get some consistency now to challenge at the top after finishing third again for the second year.
Yeah, third last season behind what two unbeaten sides, which is almost unprecedented. I mean, how was that season for you? Aside from the two that just streaked away at the top and beat absolutely everybody, to finish kind of best of the rest, so to speak, you must be pleased.
Yeah, we're pleased because obviously there are big clubs like Swindon Town, etc., with girls on contract paying good money. We finished above them. There's some other good, well-run big clubs down there. But we still look up. We still look at what we could have done better to get closer to those two. Now, Exeter had a healthy budget and they do it for a job, so they have a little bit of an advantage there. But a fair play to Exeter. I think they should have gone up last year. They're a very well-run group. I like Abby and Aaron a lot. Um, they're just a very consistent, well-organised, well-drilled side that know how to win, and I've got a lot of time for them. Bournemouth have obviously been a rival of ours from our very beginning. We've kind of come up through the ranks. Not forgetting that they got our promotion during COVID season when we'd gone 10 out of 10 and beat Bournemouth 3-0. So there's always a little bit of a rivalry there, although Steve and the guys down there are all perfectly nice fellas. But we're always looking up. What can we do to level the playing field? How can we catch them, obviously, we had a disastrous night against Bournemouth first game round, but second time round, it was a terrible decision by the referee, led to the second goal. And a couple of weeks earlier, it went to penalties when we've kind of missed 4 1v1s and should have gone through in the cup semi-finals. So I don't think we're a million miles away. Obviously, they have huge support now and huge backing, so it's only going to get tougher. But we're just trying to make sure we stay in the race.
I mean, it is tough, isn't it? You've got to go back a decade in Southwest for a side to win the league, dropping more than 10 points. And that's kind of the same with, some of the other leagues, particularly in Tier 4 as well. And we're seeing it in Tier 3. You have to be so close to perfect to get promoted with the way that the leagues are at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's the first area that the league. I know there's a massive restructure of Tiers 3 and 4 coming up at the end of the season, which has been in the planning stages for a couple of years. But I think one of the first things they need to look at is if this is going to be a spectacle, if this is going to be an entertainment business like the men's, how good are the playoff finals at the moment? Like last year, there's such good games with it all on the line. There's such a good entertainment spectacle for everyone. We need to get 2 up, 2 down. We need to get some kind of playoff system in place because, as you just said, by sort of Christmas, most teams are out of the running. So then you're just going through the motions and there's nothing to play for apart from pride and and that coveted third spot, which kills me because I don't want to be third.
Yeah, yeah. No, I can imagine. I mean, you've only got to look at there was that game, wasn't there, between Abingdon and Keynsham that they just didn't play because there was nothing to play for in it.
Yeah,
And you look at the southwest table, and Abingdon are in fifth. If and Keynsham could have been fifth um, had that game gone ahead and they'd have won it. So even if you did like a second, third, fourth, fifth had some kind of playoff system, that game could have really mattered and given teams something to play for.
yeah, exactly. And obviously, we're trying to grow the game. We're trying to get fans through the gate. How difficult is it to drum up a fan base and get support in when maybe after Christmas, like you said, the other two are unbeaten? It looks like no, you're clearly going to struggle to catch it. And we're a good side. We've been consistently top three. But even for us after Christmas, I think once we drew with Portishead away after the FA Cup run, but that was it. We kind of knew that was the league over. So then how are you going to get supporters through the gate when there's nothing on it? There's no excitement. There's nothing to chase, And as I said, in the men's game, it's been outstanding watching the playoffs. So exciting. And if we're going to take the women's game forwards, it's the only model we can go with, really.
So, I mean, you mentioned there that terrific FA Cup run, and that must have been great for you to be a part of. I know you mentioned earlier that people have kind of assumed that the club have made this move now because of that FA Cup run, but that's not entirely the case.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, look, don't get me wrong, £66,000 certainly maybe pulled the final curtain for us with the chairman, and maybe got his arm up his back a bit too far for him to say no. But it had been agreed the year before. Clearly, the money's very useful. I mean, the women's section this year brought in over £100,000 in income, so they can see the kind of fruits of driving us forwards and keeping us not only in this league but trying to get higher. And they now know the value of it, So now we're in the ground. As I said, we want to build this fan base. That's certainly going to get easier. We're certainly in a good position after the FA Cup run. It was a great time for the girls, great time for the club. Game broadcast worldwide, every national newspaper hit us. Football Focus on the Saturday morning came down and interviewed us, and even going into the game, it was Five Live were on the phone, and Ellen Wright and Steve Sidwell were sitting there interviewing me on the BBC then, which it's lovely, it's great, because these girls work really hard and they have to carry their jobs on, so they deserve all of the glory that brought them.
Is it perhaps, it's becoming a real, almost like a hub of football down there, isn't it? Now, Portsmouth and Southampton now both in the Championship. Tier 4's got Bournemouth Sports, yourselves, Southampton Women's in there. There's so many teams in and around that area. In some aspects, does that make it a bit more difficult to get a big fan base because there's so many different ways that fans could go?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think the women's game's growing at such a rate. I explained to my board years ago. I'm not after like they may have been a bit worried that we were trying to pinch their supporters. I'm not after the fellas and the dogs and that come and have a beer and watch you play football. Where it's a different market. You've only got to look at. I know obviously Lewis had a struggle this year, but when I looked at the figures that they were getting through the gate. The way their fan base grew when they went with their equality model, it's a different market, and women, mums, nans, aunties, and dads and brothers, they all love coming. It's more of a family-orientated environment, I believe, in the women's game. So the kids can come and have fun and run around together, and the mums and dads are all supportive. I think we just need to grow our actual fan base now that we've got our ground, and it'll be fine.
I know, obviously, at the moment, we're still waiting on the exact allocation of who's going to be in what league. Looks like there's going to be some movement from east to west to get the numbers up. But how busy is your summer at the moment, sorting everything all out in the pre-season and the players and getting ready? I mean, you must be, I think it's August the 18th is kind of the penciled in date for the start. You must be willing for that to arrive already and getting back on the pitch.
Well, I'm not going to lie. People always say, "Oh, yeah, can't you go and have a break? I can't wait for the break." And I look at them and think, "What break?"
You get more of a break during the season.
Yeah, exactly. It is because you're in your routine and you're not. I mean, look, we start analysing the squad, we start listening and having conversations with players like a while back. We start looking at what other teams have got, where you might be able to find players, etc., how you can progress all the time, and certainly from Christmas onwards. So today, for instance, obviously I'm speaking to yourself now. Um, I've got an interview with a potential member of staff at 3:30, another one at 5, and then another one at 6:30. I've already been emailing staff applications and players that are coming into the open days, etc., all day today. It's constant. It is constant, but that's the football drug, isn't it? That's the bit. We got to get better. We got to push on. We got to do more.
Yeah, so the fixture release will be a while yet, but who do you want on the opening day?
Um, well, in our ground in Portsmouth, we've still got Southampton in our league, so that would be a great curtain raiser for us if we could get a home game in the new ground against Southampton. That would be a great opener. I think that would be perfect.
Yeah, well, thanks so much. I know obviously you're really busy, Carl. Thanks so much for joining me, and yeah, best of luck to the club in the new season. I hope the new ground's everything you wanted it to be as well.
It is looking good. It is looking beautiful, and I'm looking forward to getting in the office in there so I can get the other half of my bedroom back, um, and live some kind of normal life. Because unfortunately, I'm going to be able to go part time this year now as well. So I'll be in the office on a Monday with some of the staff, organising the week, so that hopefully the rest of my life looks a little bit more semi-normal than it does at the moment.
It's always great to talk to Karl, and a big thank you to him for taking time out of his day to speak to me earlier on this week. As you heard there, he's very busy ahead of the new season, trying to get everything in place so that Moneyfields can challenge in what is sure to be a very competitive Division 1 Southwest for next season. That then will about do it for this week's episode of the Women's Football Chat. Next week, the summer knockout tournament begins, so do make sure that you are following on social media and that you are subscribed to this channel so you don't miss out on that preliminary round draw. You can also hit the bell to get notifications every Thursday at 6 p.m. when the show goes live. As I said, next week that first draw will take place. Will Wolves be able to defend their crown? Will Chesham take it back? Or will one of the new teams with a strong following be able to catch everybody out and take home the title of Summer Knockout Champions 2024? That'll do it then for this week's episode of the Women's Football Chat. Thank you very much for watching and or listening, and goodbye.